Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Transform Your Business into a 24/7 Sales Machine. My name is Michelle Eisenberg, and I am a program assistant here at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit that's building a better path for entrepreneurs worldwide by improving access and knowledge for all in entrepreneurship. So, as you will see in the chat in just a moment, the NASDAQ Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So, definitely make sure to check out those links and resources in the chat. And just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First, let us know where you are dialing in from in the chat. And second, we are going to open up for live Q&A at the end of the event. So please make sure to submit your questions for us in that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation. We will try our best to get to all of them. And of course, none of what we do could be possible at the center without all of the amazing support from our sponsors, including NASDAQ, Lehigh University, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Wells Fargo, the Narit Foundation, Walmart.org, JP Morgan Chase, BPM, HubSpot for Startups, and Google Cloud. We are humbled by their contributions and hope you are grateful too. And so before we get started, we always like to launch a couple polls to step back, see how everyone here is doing today. This first poll is going to ask, how are you feeling? How are you feeling about your business as a founder? Fearful, anxious, surviving, or optimistic? And we'll give it a few moments for folks to respond here. Thank you, thank you. All right, I'm going to end this poll and share these results. Awesome. All right, we got optimism coming up in the lead. We also got a good amount of anxiety and surviving. So hopefully, and a little bit of fear in there as well. So hopefully, insights and strategies from today's presentation will help alleviate some of those feelings. So I'm gonna stop sharing this poll and launch the second one. What is keeping you up at night? Is it finance, sales, marketing, scale, pivot, team, or surviving? And this one helps us understand your current needs as an entrepreneur to help inform upcoming programs and resources we have in development. So I'll give that a few moments. Awesome. We got folks from Baltimore, St. Louis, Minnesota, South Carolina, New York City, Georgia, Massachusetts, Boston, awesome, Atlanta, Alabama, California, Florida, Ohio, the Bahamas. Awesome. Virginia, Rwanda, Washington State, Nigeria. Awesome, awesome. Los Angeles, San Francisco, wonderful. Houston, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, so awesome. Folks dialing in from all over. Indiana, wonderful. New Jersey, awesome. All right, I'm gonna end this poll and share these results. All right, sales coming up in the lead. Very fitting for our topic for today. It looks like we got marketing and finance coming up close behind and other needs all across the board. So thank you all so much for participating. Super helpful. Gonna stop sharing this poll, and without any further delay, please join me in giving the warmest welcome to our special guest, Averri Liggins, system strategist and marketing automation expert. Avery, super excited to have you here with us today, and I'm going to pass it right over to you.
Well, thank you, Michelle. I am so excited. I was sharing earlier, this is my absolute favorite topic to share with you because it has changed my life in so many ways. And I saw some from the poll that there are some things about marketing and sales that keeps you up at night, and some of this will answer that, even though I have specific presentations on those, but it'll at least get you started in the right direction. So I hope you are as excited as I am, and shout out to those living in Atlanta. That's where I reside as well. But thank you so much for everyone for joining all over. And so I hope you are ready to learn how you can transform your brand into a 24/7 sales machine. So, what's in store for today are 5 mistakes that most business owners make. We're going to talk about how you can create your own system strategy. I always get a question about tools you can use. So, we're going to talk about a few of the tools that you can use in your own business. And if we have enough time, I'm going to go over some demos using tools that you probably already use, such as ChatGPT, and give you a back end look of my operations. I believe in being transparent and showing you what that looks like. And of course, Q&A. And I believe showing up is 90%. So, just as a special bonus, I am giving you a free chapter of my book, Autopilot Your Success, which hit #1 on Amazon last year. And so, this is just an extra supplemental resource that can get you started on being more productive in your business. So, you might be wondering, okay, who is Avery and why can she talk about transforming your brand? So, I have personally had over 14 years of experience in the digital marketing space. And it started off in college when I was a freelance website designer. And so trying to figure out, well, how can I turn this from a hobby into a business? I made a few stumbles along the way, trying to figure out, okay, how can I make this a sustainable brand? So that's how I fell into systems and also just marketing in general. But I've also worked for former Governor Nathan Deal and the Georgia Technology Authority, where I had the insight of project management and how to create processes that work across the board. And then I am a proud graduate of Clark Atlanta University, which is my pride and joy. I have also been able to work with a few of these organizations, either as a business coach or as a presenter. And so, just being able to work with a wide variety of organizations, I have been able to see how systems can work across the board for various organizations. And so receipts are great. It shows, that you're a credible person, but for me, that is not the most important part of my journey. So if I can keep it real for a moment, I'm going to share just a few of my failures. And so after college, I started an online boutique for fashion. I actually went to school for fashion before I switched my major, and I don't know why I did fashion because I couldn't draw. I don't know what I was thinking about being a fashion designer, but I was like, let me go back to an online boutique. That failed. I tried various entrepreneurial ventures and I got bored. I started an online community for minority entrepreneurs and then I pivoted. Then I had to deal with some mindset issues because I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease at 26. And then I had the bright idea, it wasn't so bright, but the bright idea to start a travel agency because I can literally plan a trip in under 30 minutes with itinerary and everything. And so I had one booking, but I realized that I can plan it for myself, but I don't like planning for others. But really, all of those failures were lessons in disguise. And I just really needed to find the right strategies and my purpose to figure out what worked for me. And the reason why I share this experience is because we tend to be hard on ourselves, thinking that all of these failures are just, we're not going to be successful. But sometimes those experiences really just help us catapult to the next stage in our life. So hopefully you can see yourself in my journey, even if it's not exactly the exact story like mine. So the turning point was figuring out my purpose. And the reason why I do what I do is because I see so many entrepreneurs not having a clear path to success. So, this is why I teach my proven strategies so that we can again transform your brand into a 24/7 sales machine and reduce that frustration and overwhelm. So, enough about me. Now that you know a little bit more, we are going to get into the top process and systems mistakes. So, mistake number one is not having a process in place at all. But you want to make sure you have something documented, no matter how small, so that you can identify the repetitive task and time wasters. And don't fret, we're going to get more into like how you can create your process for yourself. So make sure that you have a strategy to identify the repetitive time wasters. Number two is creating a strategy too late. And a lot of people find that when they're in the scaling phase or when it's time to bring on a team member, they're not ready because, again, they don't have that strategy. So they're scrambling at the last minute to create trainings to figure out what exactly do I conduct in my business. And so instead of starting when it's time to bring someone on or when you're scaling, build your processes as you go. And an example of that is, say you're creating your social media platform plan. So you can say, step one, I am drafting ideas for content. Step two, I'm going to create the graphics. Step three, I'm going to schedule it in my social media scheduler. Now, there might be some more steps in between that, but if you just get started and when you are conducting that task, you can continue to add up on those processes. Mistake number three is having a generic way to capture leads. Instead of having a lead magnet or some sort of opt in to exchange information that you would receive from your leads. So often I see subscribe to my list for tips, tricks, and more. Instead, you would want to have a targeted lead magnet that says 5 tips to become more financially stable, for an example. And so you want to make sure that you're creating messaging around that opt-in. And so you know exactly who you attract and saying, instead of saying, sign up for my list. And we're going to give some more examples of that later. Mistake number four is having to manage multiple tools. A lot of times when clients come to me, they might have 5 or more tools, which there's nothing wrong with it. But the more tools you have, the harder it is to manage to figure out, okay, what should go here? What should I automate? Or how can the tools talk to each other? So the better solution is to find 1 or 2 tools that can conduct a majority of the task for you. And finally, not leveraging automation and AI. Automation and AI does not have to be scary. And my goal is to make systems simple for you. And with this, you can leverage it to have tools that work for you 24/7. And so I always say it's like having an extra team member that you don't have to pay right away, except for your monthly subscription. Now, I want you to comment in the chat, which mistake have you made? Number one, no processes in place. Number two, starting too late. Number three, having a generic way to capture leads. Number four, having to manage multiple tools. And number five, not leveraging automation and AI. And if you're like me, no shame, I have made all the mistakes. So I am going to teach you how to navigate around the mistakes. So I see 1, 4, 5, 4. I see 5 and 3, all of them. Yes, you're like me. So we are all guilty to some extent of making some of these mistakes. And I always say that systems is an evolution, not a destination, because there's always going to be something to enhance. So you are not alone there. Now, I want you to look at the 2 scenarios and I'll read it out and then determine which one are you today. So, number one is frustrated Fred, missing meetings and opportunities, terrible with following up with leads, potential partners, stressed out and frustrated with manual tasks. I always say the boring manual tasks nobody wants to do. Maybe you are wasting money on tools and resources, or perhaps you do not have a sales funnel to convert. Or maybe you are savvy Sadie and you do not miss meetings and events. You have an instant follow up response. You have little to no manual task. You rarely get overwhelmed with daily tasks. And you have an automated marketing strategy to convert leads. And so, let's see, I'll answer some of these questions. But if I am being honest, Frustrated Fred was my story before systems, and now I'm Savvy Sadie. And I was thinking earlier this year, okay, why am I still kind of like all over the place with tasks? And I realized the purpose of systems is not necessarily to free up all of your time, but it's to free up some of the repetitive manual tasks so you can focus on what you actually enjoy. So use systems to free up the things that you don't want to do or that are the biggest time wasters, and you have more time to accomplish other things in your brand. Okay, savvy Sadie. I see some savvy Sadies and some frustrated friends. So, how do you benefit from systems? Number one is you can eliminate manual emails to distribute information faster. You can also disseminate onboarding processes faster as well. You can save money on your tools and your resources. You can enhance consistency and have the same results or better. You can increase productivity while maintaining efficiency. And then, like I mentioned earlier, it's just like having an extra team member that works around the clock for you. And I'll give you a little preview of some of the tools. So, my tool, HoneyBook, actually automates the process for me. And so, all I have to do is click either website automation or system setup automation, and it will send them their onboarding packet. And as soon as they make their either first payment or sign the contract, it will automatically send them their welcome packet. And I have a few emails scheduled for them. And so that way I don't have to remember, okay, it's 30 days in, I should do a check in, but who knows what 30 days from now will look like. So having those automations in place really is a game changer. Actually, I'm going to show you, if we have time, how HoneyBook works. So that's a great point. So, some of the types of tasks that we can automate or develop processes around are these three categories: strategic and operational, so project management, communications, performance tracking. And my disclaimer, I am not a financial expert, but you can also utilize it for invoices, payments, expense tracking, and so much more. You can also utilize it, of course, if you haven't already, for marketing and sales, for social media management, emails, lead generation, CRM system like HoneyBook, Dubsado, HubSpot, chat bots, which I'll come back to in a moment, and then also order fulfillment. So if you have drop shipping or if you have products that you make and you send it to an order fulfillment service, they can send out the products for you. And then finally, digital products. So going back to chat bots, if you are getting a lot of questions that are repetitive, you can use an automated chat bot, which is typically through your website, but you can do add-ons or different things like that. And you can anticipate the questions that people are going to ask. Or if you don't know, you can utilize ChatGPT and put in information about your business and say, give me some common questions that people might ask. You can easily put that into a chat bot on the back end and say, if they ask this type of question, or if they say this type of word, this is the response they will receive. And if the chatbot cannot answer that, then it will go into an email that will come to you. So think Amazon chatbot, where they answer your questions first, and then if they're not able to help you, they'll send you to a live representative. But before you can even do all of this, you need to have a strategy first. So, this is where we will talk about how you can get started today, even with your system strategy. So, it first starts off with analyzing where you are. Number one, you want to think about the strengths with a SWOT analysis. So, what is working well in your business? What do your customers praise you for? Or what goes easily in your business? And if you're not sure, it doesn't hurt to ask your customers or clients directly. Weaknesses, you want to determine what keeps falling through the cracks. What do you receive the most complaints about? What questions do you keep receiving? Or what frustrates you the most? So, if you're thinking about a task and it's dreaded, that's probably something that you can automate or delegate if it's not possible with automation. For opportunities, think about what areas can be automated or maybe eliminated altogether. Maybe you have some outdated processes and there's something that you no longer do in your business. So maybe it's time for an audit. And again, think about what you can delegate if you do not, if you cannot automate. And then finally, thinking about the threats. what is the process needed to develop this, and what could be out of your control, such as maybe economic changes or changes in the platform, and it's a learning curve. So think about all of that when it comes to building your strategy. And so for an example, I picked onboarding, and maybe the strength is you already have a step-by-step process dedicated to support the client, but you might be a solopreneur and you don't have a lot of resources that may lead to delays in onboarding, or maybe you wear multiple hats and you might just forget to send the contract right away or the welcome packet. So that is the weakness. The opportunity would be to embrace technology such as a Dubsado, a Honeybook, HubSpot, and more to enhance your onboarding process. And then finally, the threats, just as I mentioned before, maybe changes to the platform to onboard a client. Honeybook has gone through so many changes, and so I have been adapting to what they have been doing on the back end of the tool. Now, once you determine your SWOT analysis, you want to move towards your SMART goals. So, what is your desired outcome or result? How will you know this is going to be achieved? You want to think about the resources you need to put in place and or the individuals on your team or VA that you want to put in place. And then how is this relevant? How will it advance your ultimate goal? And then finally, is it time bound? When do you look to have these processes complete? And again, using the onboarding as an example. So the specific is to make the onboarding process more efficient and faster using the steps you identified, that you want to make it measurable by maybe condensing the average onboarding time from 3 days to one. You want to make it achievable by having the necessary resources, the tools, or the team. You want to make it relevant by having an automated onboarding process, which will help cut down that time of measurable. And then you want to make sure that you complete the setup within 10 days. And I'm looking at the chat. So I've heard of Go High Level and set up clients there as well. That's also a good platform. So there's so many, as you can see. Now, I want to do a little tech talk because tech is a lot of the conversation. So, first up, we'll talk about some of the key tools you can use. So, for CRMs, there is Dubsado, there's Honeybook, there's HubSpot, there's Monday.com, and someone mentioned already Go High Level. And there are also so many other tools that incorporate a lot of features. As far as courses, there is Kajabi, there's Kartra, Teachable, Thinkific, and again, there are more that you can utilize. For graphics, there is Adobe Firefly, Canva Magic Dream Lab, and Mid Journey, and that's where you can create AI images for yourself. And then for email marketing, Active Campaign, Constant Contact, ConvertKit, HubSpot, Kartra, Keep, Klaviyo, MailChimp. And then finally, for project management, Asana, Basecamp, ClickUp, Trello. So you're probably like, okay, there's so many tools. Which ones should I utilize? Now, what the answer to that is it depends on your business. So the reason why I say tools for the end of the strategy is because you need to determine first, what is that process going to look like? And then think about the features that you need to implement that process. So for me, even though I use Honeybook for specific reasons, such as the client portal and the client experience, it might not be the best for your business. And even though I use Kartra, which is more than an email tool because you can utilize landing pages, you can utilize email sequences, surveys, so much more, it doesn't mean that you need all of those features. So I never recommend a tool off the bat until I work with someone deeply. So you want to just do your own research to figure out which tool works best for you and how you utilize it. Another thing that you should keep in mind is don't think about the current state of your business, think about the future state, especially when it comes to email marketing campaigns. Some people think, okay, I'm going to utilize this tool, but when they reach a subscriber list of 2,000, 3,000, or more, they find that there's a big jump in price. And so they're often surprised about that. And either they would have switched to a different platform or they would have wanted to know that this price was going to take effect. So you want to make sure that you keep that in mind as you are looking for tools. Now, continuing on with tools, there are several scheduling tools that you can utilize, such as Acuity, Calendly, which has a free version, Dubsado, HoneyBook, Kartra, and Sling. There are videos and voice, such as Canva, which you can utilize for video production. There, I call it Did. I don't even know if that's the right way, but that is an avatar video platform that you can utilize. 11 Labs is where you can have voiceovers for your content. And then Quazo AI, and that used to be Video AI, and it's QUSO. They just recently changed. So that gives you the capability to create short form short form content from your long form content, and then Bead.ai. Will also do the same as well. And as far as, oh, I'm seeing some more tools I have to look up. As far as webinars, you can utilize ClickFunnels, Demio, Easy Webinar, EverWebinar, Kartra, and Stealth Web Seminar. And with the automated webinars, basically what that looks like is you'll record your video or use a past video. And with Kartra, for example, if you have an offer 40 minutes in, you can say, put a call to action that will take them to whatever that offer looks like. So you can utilize platforms such as that if you do not have the time to do a monthly webinar or go as often live as you would like. And then finally, for written content, there is Canva Magic Write, ChatGPT, which of course everyone knows, Claude, Google Gemini, Jasper, and Microsoft Copilot. So I am going to do some demos, which is my favorite thing because I get to geek out a little bit. So I hope it's okay if we can get into some demos. And I did see some requests for HoneyBook. So let's see, I'm going to go to that in a moment, but I'm going to knock out some of these other tools first. So first up is ManyChat, and this is for your social media management, which you can utilize on so many platforms, but the most common are Instagram, and Facebook. And so basically, when you go into the platform, you will click automations to the left side and click new automation to create something from scratch. And so if you see someone say, DM the word, whatever that word will be, it's not them DMing you, it's actually an automation. So you can have, say, for instance, if you were attending this class, DM the word transform, and it will say, hey, and you can actually put their first name, which will be tagged to their Instagram account name or their Instagram bio profile, and it'll say, hey, so happy that you are going to sign up for this class. Here is the link for this class. And so you can put whatever message you want. One of the things I also learned is if you run ads, anyone that comments, you can send them a message as well. So that's just an extra touch point that you can have to interact with them directly. But you see that there are so many things here. And you said, yes, but your primary market is not on Instagram and Facebook. Okay, so yes, they do have LinkedIn as well that you can utilize for ManyChat. And then you bring up a very good point. So one of the things that you can utilize on LinkedIn is, say you're going to do a post of some sort related to your industry, and that post will take them to a landing page with your opt-in, whatever is related to your topic. Once they opt in to that landing page, it will create an automated sequence. And I usually suggest about 5 because it takes about 5 to 7 touch points for someone to really be engaged with your business. And so from there, you would create an offer that would stem from the opt-in but prepare them for the offer. And what that looks like is email 1 would be, oh, I'm so happy to have you here, here's your opt-in. Email 2, I usually like to do a value add that says, okay, here's some extra tips. Email 3, depending on the funnel, might be just an extra opt-in resource that they can have, or I might be starting to position them for the sale with a testimonial. Email 4 is where I really pivot towards them going in for the sale. And sometimes I'll even just say, hit reply for your challenge. And then email 5 is when I really go into what the offer is and ask them to sign up or purchase whatever that offer is. So as long as you are taking them away from social media into your email list and into whatever funnel you have built up, that's how you can begin to nurture them even more for the sale. So I hope that provided a little bit more insight into your LinkedIn post. So what does that look like? I have opened up my Kartra, and this is the actual back end of a funnel for actually the transforming your brand funnel that I would do if I'm hosting it on my own. Oh, so glad that's helpful. And so what you are looking for is it will depend on the platform. It might be called a trigger. In this case, it's called starting rules. But with this one, you can do so so many ways to opt in. So it could be the opt-in form, it could be a tag. And one thing about, even though this is getting more into marketing, you want to make sure you have all of your tags or segments of your audience so that way you can position something that is specific to what they are interested in. So that's how it starts off, with a trigger or a starting rule. So then what you will have is, let me just do a little preview. So your question is, does the zap to high level? So if I understand your question correctly, you wouldn't have both a Kartra and a high level because they do some of the same things. And if I'm misunderstanding it, please let me know. But it's possible that it would, but I wouldn't suggest having both tools because there you would definitely see some overlap in what you have with Kartra and high level. So what you see here is a delay for 5 days. So I won't send it right away. This will take place, this email will be sent 5 days after the initial email is sent. And you can see, again, close to my framework, that it is a value add email. And then it just has all of this information and quick tips. And so each email just, again, positions them closer to the sale or closer to the webinar to get them excited about what's to come. Okay, so enough about that. We are going to now do some demos with ChatGPT, and I'm going to minimize this. So I created some prompts. And one thing that is not utilized a lot is utilizing ChatGPT for everyday things, such as creating a daily routine. So we are going to have chat in real time come up with a daily routine for me. And chat gets a little bit personal, so we'll see what it comes up with. It already knows too much about my life, but that is helpful at the same time. So I had it come up with a daily routine that will help a busy entrepreneur with professional and personal responsibilities. So it is pulling information. It already knows that I'm a caregiver for my mom. And so it's having me do a 5:30 a.m. start time. I will not get up that early, but it's still giving me a framework to at least start from. And then I would probably change this to say my start time will be 7 a.m. But you can see that it has some of my goals to work out more. Again, the time to take care of my mother, eat a healthy breakfast and mindset prep. And then also has, starting at 9 a.m., having client meetings and coaching calls. And think about client meetings and coaching calls. For me personally, I have set days where I accept coaching calls, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I may go back to my Tuesday and Thursday routine, but basically it helps me know, okay, on these days I need to be prepared for client calls. And then Mondays and Fridays are my administrative days or maybe client work days to get things done. So I have it structured that way. And then also I have done themed days as well. So I like to call it Finance Fridays, where I look over the expenses of the day or the week, I should say, or of the month, and maybe Admin Mondays, different things like that. So that way I'm focused on one set thing at a time and I'm not overwhelmed with the day to day. So I hope that was helpful. Oh, Thank you. I'm so happy that this is helpful for you. So that is one way you can utilize ChatGPT just to help even with your day-to-day things. Also, you can utilize ChatGPT to help you come up with email responses. So sometimes if you are like, I don't know exactly what to say to this individual, you can take the response of the email and say, this is what I want to say. Put this in a nice, friendly manner and it'll come up with things. And I still will change things if I'm like, not yes, Chat GPT religiously. It's boo. But I will utilize that just to help me come up with things quicker. So going on to the next prompt, you can utilize it to help optimize your website. And so I'm just going to utilize the prompt here, but you can also take the link in ChatGPT and have it come up with maybe content that you might have missed. That will also tie into the FAQ, so that way you're not having to answer a whole bunch of questions day in and day out. Chatty Cathy, I love it. So let's see, it's having okay, so that's having a little bout. Let's see if this will work for us. So we're going to copy and paste that and see what this comes up with. So again, you would want to make it specific for your business by putting in your own brand and want it to have a temperament. So let's see if this will do better. But put the link to your business specifically, put a little information about your business if it doesn't know your brand already. So that way it can pull the analytics, the assessment of it. So let's see what this comes up with. And so it is giving a website structure and it's saying the homepage, about services, contact, and this is actually pretty close to what I have. One of the things that it does not have that I have on my site is a press page where it's just showing instant credibility of where I've spoken, well, it has testimonials, but where I've spoken, class testimonials, different things such as that. So that is how you can utilize ChatGPT to enhance your website. And again, utilize it for FAQs. You can utilize it for copy, but make sure you check that it is in par with your brand voice and in alignment. And we will utilize two more prompts before moving. Oh, I'm glad that you like these ideas. Yes, this is only the cusp of it because there's so much you can utilize it for. One thing that I've also utilized it for, if I'm in a pinch for social media, is taking old content. So I'll repurpose the video from like maybe a year ago or 2 years ago and say, rephrase this for me so I don't have to think about it and add some relevant hashtags. And that is basically, I can create a social media post within 5 minutes from old content. So let's see. This is, I can be convinced to give you some of the prompts as well. So yes, I will make sure that along with the sign up for the chapter, that I will send an email to send out these prompts because there's really a good one at the end with creating an email sequence that's more detailed than this. So this one is talking about interested in creating an effective email marketing strategy. Please help me build steps to build the email list. So we're going to go ahead and generate this. And then this will be the last prompt so I can make sure we have time for Honeybook because I feel like there are a lot of questions. So this one is talking about how you can build your email list through lead magnets. And one thing that I will say is underutilized are audio files. So maybe your client is on the go all the time and they don't have time to look at an ebook or sit down to take a quiz. Utilize an audio file that's showing your expertise or giving tips. And then that way they can listen to it on the go, similar to a podcast, but slightly different. So this is talking about optimizing your sign up forms, utilizing landing pages. And here are some of the tools that we've mentioned with the addition of Flowdesk. And then it did create a segment. So I would take it a step further by saying I would segment based off of what they've signed up for or how you met them. And then it goes into some of the automated sequences. So introduction, as I've mentioned, you share your story, value proposition, provide a quick win, soft sell, and strong CTA. So chat was thinking the same thing as I. And let's see, what platform would you use to record a voice file? So, good question. You can utilize so many things. You can utilize, well, even Zoom, because they have the video and the audio version of it. You can use Otter, you can use Loom. There are so many tools. And then I see that I'm gonna have to check out HeyGen, but HeyGen is also was mentioned in the chat. So that is the last one for that we're going to utilize. And then I'm going to go to HoneyBook. So with HoneyBook, I just wanted to show you these are all of the automations I have. So I have it organized by service, and then I also have it organized by whether they are paying an installment or whether they are paying in full. So I'm going to go to the one that has the most steps. So we're going to click coaching installment. And you can see the start is here, and it starts off with me clicking coaching installment in their portal, and then it will send them their smart file. So I have created a contract agreement file that has like things to expect, questions that they may have. It has the process of what the service is. So leading them up to like, they should not have any questions at the end of this file, by the end of reading this, if they read. And so then after they make their first payment, it will automatically send them their welcome payment. So again, it's just reiterating, thank you so much for signing up as a client. We're so happy to have you. Here are the milestones. Here's your next step. And the last page links to my scheduler. So that way I don't have to remember to send them a scheduling link, and they can automatically sign up, and then that will kick in another set of automations. We could talk about this all day and go so deep, but that's what will happen next. Then after 30 days, even though we would have had some sessions, it's just a check-in questionnaire. So again, instead of me having to remember, okay, it's 30 days in, let me make sure I check in, even though we might have some communication, this is something that is guaranteed, that asks them, okay, well, how are you feeling in this process? What things do you need that you are not receiving? So I'm making sure that I'm living up to their expectations. And so since this is a 6-month coaching, there is another 60-day check-in. And then there is another check-in. And so after we get through their process, as soon as they are put in the completed stage, it will say, okay, I'm going to automatically send the offboarding packet. So that is what that will look like for the automations. So let's see. From a sales perspective, could you share any success stories from your business on lead to conversion rates and what has worked best for your business? Good question. Okay, so this will definitely vary for business to business, but as a business coach, and then we can definitely transition to some Q&A, and I'll make sure to get you the QR code for the chapter. But for me, I've definitely been experimenting within the past few months. So what I have found has been helpful for my business as a service-based professional offering services has been having a monthly webinar, also figuring out what platform my audience is on. So I primarily focus on LinkedIn and Instagram, but they're for two completely different services. LinkedIn is more for the individuals who are ready for premium services. Not to say that Instagram is not, but that's a different demographic who are looking for like maybe the classes. But LinkedIn, they're the businesses who are ready to invest in for a complete system setup. So having a monthly webinar has helped in promoting it there. Posting tips and tricks from speaking engagements or just creating some content around that. And again, that's where I use Quazo to break up some of that long form content into short form and having a call to action. And then of course, I cannot go about saying about my email list, making sure I am doing that more consistently. And then of course, having those funnels in place. So the other part of your question was lead to conversion rates. So for me personally, I feel like I have to look at it again because I haven't looked recently. I think it was 57% conversion rate, but sometimes people will say, I love this, but they're not ready for it at this moment. So they're putting a pin into it, but they might opt in for something that is a lower tier offer. So it kind of just varies as well. But I hope that answers your question. All right, so I am going to transition to Q&A, and then I will make sure again to get the QR code up for you.
Awesome, Avery. Thank you so much. That was amazing. So many just readily available strategies that folks can apply right away. And clear insights here. So thank you so much. If you are in the audience and you have a question for Avery, please drop it in that Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We'll try to get to as many as possible. And so for just to kick things off, um, I think you kind of touched on this a bit throughout your presentation. And even just now, with that last question, we have a question here that's kind of, asking about, what what can entrepreneurs do to make sure effectively measure the success of these system strategies efforts, particularly when it pertains to preventing burnout, especially for like solopreneurs, like is there kind of like a cadence for like regularly making sure that like things are working well and like identifying areas for improvement that you would recommend?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I will have to go to the beginning of saying creating your routine and then also creating your, I will say national holidays because I consider my birthday a national holiday in my mind, right? But blocking off time in advance, not to say that all of it is set in stone. There might be things that come up, but or at the beginning of this year, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a week off for my birthday. Okay, I know my 5 city tour is coming up. I'm going to be burnt out after that. Let me take a week off after that to regain myself. So, those holidays, those special occasions, the anniversaries, the birthdays that are important to you, block off time in advance for that. Maybe that looks like having one self care day a month, or maybe that looks like, again, on set days, having your meetings with your clients on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that way, Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, you can catch up with the other things that you need to do. Setting boundaries also with your clients to say, you cannot contact me between after these hours. You can expect like 24 to 48 hours in advance. So the more communicative you are, the better you can manage that. Now, I'm like, is it perfect? No. There are definitely times when I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, going crazy. But I still know that in 2 weeks, which is my birthday, 3 weeks, it's my time to be off. So I'm like, okay, I can make it until then and get these things out the way. So that's how I deal with that. Or sometimes just saying, okay, I'm not doing anything today. So having that leeway to do that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Kind of like, that regular practice of introspection, really looking inward and being like, what do I need as a founder to be successful, and what do I need as a human being to be successful and sustain, these practices. And so love that. And of course, it will totally look different for everyone, but I think that's a lot of, really great tips there. Wonderful. We have another question in the chat here that I think is wonderful. We have a lot of first-time founders or founders that are, just starting out maybe in their first few years of business. Or maybe they're even right at the beginning, kind of towards that ideation phase. And so this person is asking, any recommendations on, you know, key aspects of, your system strategy to focus on before signing that very first client to ensure success?
hmm Great question. So, of course, this will look different for a service-based professional versus product. So, I'll explain both. So, with the service-based, at the very least, a seamless onboarding process. That is where you would receive the most complaints because you do not want to have your client to have buyer's remorse. So, I would suggest, even if it's not a full welcome packet, a contract, of course, and then a welcome email with that next step. Give them some answers to their questions that are identified in that email if you're not going to do a welcome packet, but they want to like make sure that they did not make a bad decision by investing with you. So giving as much information as possible is perfect. And it even starts before they become a client. So on my website, you will see all of the processes laid out. So by the time they have signed on, it's just a reiteration of what they already should know. So just repetitive, just to get it into their brains.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah, and of course I think that that is so important, kind of like acknowledging those differences, as we definitely have folks in the audience from, with all different kinds of businesses. So that's wonderful. Amazing. Awesome. We have another question here, kind of honing in on specific tools, some of which you shared a really awesome host of tools of all different kinds. Um, you know, this person is, asking for, the CRM is for, for most businesses is so critical. Any thoughts on, just kind of some of the key aspects of a CRM that you would want to, compare and contrast between different options and, what might, be a priority for different founders when making that decision?
Very good question as well. So for in simple terms, you want to find a tool that basically talks to all of your other tools, or at least you can embed or integrate. And I know I sound like a broken record with HoneyBook, but and I'm not saying HoneyBook is your tool, but just highlighting some of the features of what's possible. So anytime someone goes to my website, if they click the contact form or the scheduling form, it's technically HoneyBook. So once they sign up or click submit, their name goes into my HoneyBook portal. And that way I don't have to waste time trying to put a new contact in. And then all I have to do again, basically, if they don't do a discovery call, they already know what they want, click that automation and it's going into that seamless automation that I just showed you like that. So you want to find tools that can talk to some of the other tools that you have, such as your website or maybe social media, depending on what you do. And that makes it easier on you. So at the end of the day, you can have like a sigh of relief, like, oh, this is already done in the background for me. Didn't have to really lift a finger.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's so key, that integration piece. And that's kind of something to think about with a lot of these tools and some of the systems you might already have in place as a foundation for your business. So awesome. And kind of, along those lines, a question that we, are asked a lot is, with all the different tools that are out there, many of them kind of, end up, you know, over time they'll add features and then it gets to a point where, maybe you're using a host of tools that have overlapping features, maybe so, just any recommendations on, kind of balancing the number of tools that you're using or making sure that you don't kind of get like too overwhelmed with all these tools.
Yes, phenomenal questions, first of all. So I have my MVPs, and it's really technically it's two if you're not including my website. So Kartra and HoneyBook, between them, does everything that I needed to do. So finding a tool, or even someone mentioned Go High Level, that is a competitive platform for Kartra. So finding tools that can incorporate a whole bunch of features is key. So again, with Kartra, you can utilize the surveys, you can create digital products and sell that. You can have payment plans on both Kartra and HoneyBook. With Kartra as a supplement to my existing website landing pages, the sales funnel. So finding tools that can eliminate some of those multiple tools that you have is key. I remember one of my clients was spending like over $800 for multiple tools. I was like, well, with this one tool, you can eliminate all that. And then I think it was reduced to like $100, $200. So it really does take research on the part of the business owner. But if you do invest that time, it's a game changer. I know that's like a broken record, but it's true.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's amazing. And yeah, I love that kind of like having your kind of MVPs is great. I think we have time for one more question. And I know something that you mentioned like during your presentation, as entrepreneurs are kind of thinking about not just attracting customers, but retaining customers, how these automation tools, they can, help you like set reminders or, make sure that you're staying engaged with those customers. Any other final thoughts, on just, what entrepreneurs really need to know about how these tools can, potentially be used to support that process of retaining those customers and keeping them engaged.
Yeah, so I would say it goes back to the customer experience. Your customers and clients want to make sure that they feel seen and heard. So it's as simple as even just a check-in, maybe like 10, even 10 days after, or something that makes them feel like, oh, I feel important. So for me personally, even when I felt like overwhelmed in a sense, I was like, okay, I'm going to set aside this time, go through my client list, see who has not heard from me, which I try to do it weekly depending on the project, but making sure that I'm having those touch points with them to make sure that they're like, even if it's not an update, I'm like, oh, I'm working on this. Let me know if you have any questions or you need anything in the meantime. And that's it. A lot of times they don't. Because I'm either on top of it or there's no progress to be made at the moment because I'm waiting on them. But still, just having that gentle nudge of like, oh, just, as soon as you have this, that's fine. We can proceed with this. So having that open communication is key.
Right, absolutely. Kind of a common theme here. I love it. Awesome, Avery. This has been so wonderful. If you had just one key takeaway or piece of wisdom that you wanted to leave with the audience here, what would that be?
So I will have this has nothing to do with systems, but I would say my motto is do it scared. So many opportunities are on the other side of our fear. It's just on us to take a leap. And I haven't forgotten to share the QR code, but I would just have to say do it scared. So if I could just take one moment and reshare my screen
Yeah,
and
definitely.
see, here we go. There you go, everyone. There is the QR code to get a free chapter of my book. And then also, I will make sure I will share the prompts just for you to utilize in your own business. But I'm so happy that we had so many questions.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, we'll keep that up for a moment there. Avery, thank you so much for just such an incredible overview on this topic and setting such a great foundation. And on behalf of the Nasdaq Center and everyone here today, we are just so grateful that you joined us here. Awesome. And to our audience, we would love for you to join us again for upcoming webinars, which you can view using the link that's going to be posted in the chat there. And thank you all so much for joining us today. We look forward to welcoming you back online with us soon.